Well, it defies common sense, right? It's one of those things you say, what? You're not allowed to have sunscreen at school here in Florida? There's actually a push to now break down the barrier between kids and sunscreen. Fox 35's Dana J has that story.
Look at how cute you are.
Christine Bledsoe knows the pain of skin cancer. She wouldn't send her little boy out to play without protecting him from the sun. So for this former teacher, watching students play in the scorching Florida heat without sunscreen was scary.
The kids would get burnt and they would need to reapply, and I wasn't able to do it, and so it was difficult.
Her hands were tied. The U.S. Food and Drug Administration considers sunscreen an over-the-counter drug, so schools keep a close eye on how kids use it.
It could impact another student. It could have a scent, it could cause some kind of a damage to the student's skin, other student's skin, get in the eyes.
Each school district gets to make its own sunscreen policies, so some require that it be kept in the school nurse's office. Others go as far as requiring a doctor's note in order to have it on campus.
Well, I think it's ridiculous. The idea that kids aren't able to protect themselves from the sun in the sunshine state is worrisome.
Terry Cronin is the president of the Florida Society of Dermatology and Dermatologic Surgery, which is working to change the law so that kids are allowed to keep sunblock in their backpacks or lockers.
If we can protect them now while they're young, we can protect them from having something really ravaging later in life.
500 kids are diagnosed with melanoma each year. It's on the rise in the United States, particularly among 15 to 19-year-olds.
We do link that to having a severe sunburn in your youth.
Knowing the damage the sun can do,
I had experienced surgeries and being sick. I'm gonna get that cake!
This mom and teacher agrees it's time to break down barriers.
Oh, you got it! You don't want anyone to go through that.
When it comes to protecting kids from the sun. Dana J, Fox 35 News.
All right, joining us this morning to talk a little more about that, Dr. Matthew Knight with Knight Dermatology in downtown Orlando. Good to see
Thanks
you.
for having me.
So why is this legislation so important? Why are you also on board with this?
Well, it's a no-brainer. It's a white hat issue. We know that melanoma is a huge big deal in our country. One person dies of melanoma every hour in this country. The rate has gone up 30 times in just one generation, and sunscreen plays a huge role in this. According to the Skin Cancer Foundation, just one blistering sunburn as a kid can double your risk of melanoma. And surprisingly, there's only 4 states in the country that have legislature allowing people to bring sunscreens into schools, and we're not one of them. So with advocacy groups like ours and plastic surgeons and patient advocacy groups finally went before the Florida legislature and said, look, we have to do something. So today they get to vote.
Why does the FDA consider sunscreen a drug?
Well, that is part of the problem, is that sunscreens are regulated like a drug, and that's why we haven't had any new sunscreens in so long. And schools have policies about what you can bring into school. Some of them are kind of lax, like I think Collier County is on the lax side, but some, like Seminole County and Lee County, say that if you bring in sunscreen, it has to be applied in a clinic, in the school, and it has to be stored there as well. And that's just not logical if you want a good skin cancer prevention strategy, because you're not going to go outside and play and go back in the school and put your sunscreen on and come back out for activities. So the goal here is to streamline it and make it easier for all parties involved. The problem I see is that no one's ever asked me for a script for sunscreen, and I've talked to other colleagues who said the same thing. No one's ever asked me for a prescription for sunscreen, and that means it's probably not getting done because parents don't know this is a problem, or they're just so frustrated with the bureaucracy of it all. So the goal here is to broaden the process, streamline the process, so every kid can bring in sunscreen in school and protect themselves.
In the meantime, should you be putting sunscreen on your kids before they head out for school in the morning?
Well, you have to protect them in some way, but unfortunately that's not going to protect them the whole time. And what we need to do is realize that this sunscreen measure is just a first step. We need to look to other societies like Australia that has a program to put hats on and cover-ups and sunscreen that's reduced the risk of melanoma 5% every single year it's been enacted. And they had a big study to show that sunscreen use halved the risk of melanoma in people. So sunscreens are a big part of what we need to do. We need to talk about wearing hats, wearing sunshades, cover-up shirts. We need to look to advocacy groups like there's a Children's Melanoma Foundation that can help teach administrators and children and parents about logical sun protection strategies, and realize that this is something we have to do because we live in such a high-risk state here in Florida.
Absolutely, yeah, especially because we live in Florida. Dr. Knight, thank you so much. How can our viewers find you?
KnightDermatology.com, and feel free on Facebook, ask me any questions about sunscreen.
He's the best.
Thanks.
All right, good to see you. Thanks. 7:48 right now. Let's check out with Jamie King. Find out.